Cotton. Good evening, or at least it is for me. We today .4 heavy again. They tried it 3 times in December, 3 attempts. The first one didn't go off. Then there was another attempt which was scrubbed due to weather, and then there was another one, and they found a leak. No, the first one was scrubbed because there was a signal which should verify that the valves for the engines are in the flight configuration. They weren't. The computer didn't get the signal it was looking for, so it shut down the whole, or actually put the countdown on hold. Then they tried it again later. The attempt was scrubbed due to hydrogen leak. They found the hydrogen leak and they repaired it. They replaced the valve, and now we are waiting on the 4th attempt. Somebody tell me if I'm wrong, but I think it was the 4th attempt. Simon, you missed the launch. That's bad of you, Simon. No. Yeah. So yeah, today we have the Delta 4 Heavy. Let me put it up here. I have the model of it. It broke, or it partly broke, because I have a lot of models, and I put them in a box, and when they shake around, bits fall off. But ta-da! So today we have the Delta. You are not seeing this. What is wrong with this? Oh no, you are wrong screen. We had this one. Let me pull up the correct one. So, the Delta 4 Heavy, the 3RS-68A main engines, they ignite at liftoff. Then the core throttles down, so this thing is so big I can't even fit it in the screen and put my head above it. The 3RSA main, the 3RS-68A main engines will ignite full power, and it's a lot of thrust. Yes, it is. Don't have the figure in front of me. Let's do some googling. Heavy. Sorry, I should have pulled it up earlier. Anyway, this rocket, really powerful. Currently it is most capable, I think. Depending on which orbit you go, you have some sort of competition between Falcon Heavy and Delta 4 Heavy, because the Parker Solar Probe, which was the last Delta 4 Heavy launch, they couldn't have done it on a Falcon Heavy. However you put it, they just couldn't, and that's due to the fuel. But that's another story. Maybe after the launch I will explain this. But after launch, after liftoff, first they will throttle up to full power. Once they have reached full power, they lift off, and about 10-20 seconds after launch, the center core the engine will throttle down to 70%, while the boosters keep their thrust at. Thank you for the thrust. That per one core? Let me check. I have it. I pulled it up here. So total thrust, but that is only for the boosters. So you have to add another 3,140 kilonewtons of thrust. So in total we have let's do quick maths. 9,500-ish, 9,500 kilonewtons of thrust, which is a lot. And these boosters will throttle down a bit for max Q, so the stress isn't too high on rocket. And then they will throttle up again, full thrust, and then until they deplete their fuel. Then after the sensors in the tanks sense the fuel load is not high enough, they shut down the engine, separate the boosters, both at the same time, and then the core will throttle up. It will throttle up short moment before a booster separation. It will slowly throttle up because the booster engines are throttling down to keep a smooth thrust level and not have the satellite bumping around inside. And after the core stage runs out of fuel, it too separates, and then the nozzle, which you can actually see it, the large gray part, the dark gray part, is actually tucked in over the, or actually the light gray part is tucked in the dark gray part. The dark gray part extends over the light gray part to have a nozzle extension. Then the engine will ignite. It will put it in a low Earth orbit, and it is suspected that this is indeed a Canon satellite. It is Canon. I don't even know how to pronounce this in English because this is my Dutch way of pronouncing it. But let me put it up for you. So this is what they are launching. Or what they think. We think what is known about this, and it's basically a Hubble space telescope, improved Hubble Space Telescope with a fuel system, propulsion system on the back, and it is a Canon, yeah. And they will launch it in a different orbit than they used to, because if you can see over here, they used to launch this in a polar orbit, but I've seen somewhere that this is probably gonna so in a polar orbit, which is 97 degrees, so almost so it is a bit retrograde, but it's a sun synchronous orbit, which means the bulge of the Earth keeps it exactly at the same spot. So basically the orbital mechanics make sure that every time you come over your target place, so let's say you have a target somewhere in let's say North Korea. You want to spy on North Korea because this is a spy satellite. If you want to spy on North Korea, and you come over North Korea on the let's say on noon exactly, 12 o'clock in so at noon. Every time you come over North Korea, it is noon there. So that's what the sun synchronous orbit does. And these ones are not really in a sun synchronous orbit, because their orbit is elliptical, but I don't know what it has on what impact that has on their orbit, but it looks like a sun synchronous orbit. And it probably does some similar thing, only the period shifts over time, but still the time period doesn't really shift that much because they have a whole constellation of these. And I've seen somewhere that instead of the suspected 97 degrees, they would go in a 95 degree orbit. And let me check. Oh, it is almost fine. And that is what they're doing today. So they're launching a secret satellite. They will cut off the transmission after fairing separation because they don't want us to know where the rocket is going, which is kind of, I think that is not really from this time anymore, because you can people can calculate, because there are NOTAMs, that is notice to airmen, and there are basically no-fly zones where the second stage will re-enter, and where the boosters and the core stage will crash into the ocean. Their spots are approximately known, and so yeah. Doesn't this SS sun synchronous orbit make it easy for the target to hide their activity from snooping, seeing the timing is so predictable? Well, that is the part of their highly elliptical orbit. As you can see, it is 160 by 1,707 kilometers, the last one that was launched. And well, if you really want to hide it, you just know where the satellite is, because you can visually observe it. There are observations everywhere, because these things are so big, they reflect a lot of light. And oh, you're sending me a Twitter. Let's see. Thank you for keeping me updated on the Twitter, though. Although I need to pull that up here. Ground winds. So we have 40% chance of launch now, which is decreased from about 70. So the ground winds are getting a bit high, which is not really a good thing, but I hope they will launch. Otherwise, this is going to be the fourth scrub for this. Third or fourth. But they have a 4-hour window, if I remember correctly. Well, we'll see what they have to say. So if you really want to hide it, you can just calculate on if you know where the satellite is and you know the orbital parameters, you can calculate the orbital time it takes, or the orbital period, and then from that you can know at which time it comes over your country. And I think for targets they only have 2 or 3 orbits. They can really see it clearly, so you would have to hide it for 4.5 hours, maybe more. So yeah, that is, you cannot, if you really want to hide it, you can just keep tabs on the satellites, and you can hide it anyway. So it makes them predictable, but yeah, having a constellation of them, as you can see, which was right here. If you have a constellation, it is really hard to hide everything the whole day. If you want to hide it from, let's say, I think it, so it's 90 degrees, so that is 6 hours. So every 6 hours there is at least one orbital plane exactly over your head. So okay, that 6 hours is approximate. I don't know what. It would be smarter if they told the public that we're sending a Chevy into space, like SpaceX did, and with the Tesla and Sony camera of a miniature Chevy in space. Well, the spy satellites was hidden. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe. Would be funny though. No, but they're gonna cut off the launch webcast after fairing separation, which should happen shortly after stage separation. So second stage ignites, and then they will cut off the webcast. So that's it. Yeah. And oh, I have it muted. You can hear this probably. Oh yeah. Sorry for talking over to this. I wasn't aware. They're definitely no. They are in they're not in Cape Canaveral. They're not in Florida. They are in California, Vandenberg Air Force Base. No ULA audio. This. Let me check. Let me check. So they're launching from California because the California is the only way you can get into a polar orbit, and although this is expected to be a less polar orbit, where can I find it? I need to go into my settings because it's probably not. I'm putting out my audio to my headset and it's not wanting to do anything.
Is protected inside a
is there audio now?
Payload fairing.
There should be.
At approximately
while you watch this, I'm gonna get a cable to connect this because this is a running on low battery power. So be right back. Oh, meanwhile, if you have a question, something comes up, post it in chat room.
I will NROL-71 mission. This is the 38th Delta IV launch since the inaugural flight in 2002, and the 11th flight of the Heavy configuration. Produced in Decatur, Alabama, the Delta IV Heavy, the nation's proven heavy lift launcher, is comprised of 3 common booster cores, each powered by Aerojet Rocketdyne RS-68A engines, and a Delta cryogenic second stage powered by an Aerojet Rocketdyne RL-10B2 engine. The NROL-71 payload is protected during ascent by a 5-meter diameter payload fairing. Let's have a look at a few of the events that took place in preparation for launch. On October 26th, the spacecraft, encapsulated inside the payload fairing, was transported to the Mobile Service Tower, or MST, at Space Launch Complex 6 and mated to the Delta IV Heavy rocket. The Mobile Assembly Shelter, or MAS, was moved to its launch position. The MAS protects the Delta IV rocket from the wind and fog so common to its location here on California's Pacific coast.
I'm back.
Final launch preparations at Space Launch Complex 6 begin with rollback of the Mobile Service Tower, or MST. Using 40 hydraulic cylinders at pressures nearing 3,500 psi, the MST was raised 8 inches and rolled back, revealing the Delta IV Heavy. At 100 feet by 100 feet by 300 feet, the MST is as tall as a football field is long, as wide as the length of a basketball court, and weighs in at about 10 million pounds. Using a carriage transporter system traveling at about a quarter mile per hour, it takes about 25 minutes to roll the MST to its launch position 300 feet east of the rocket. The Delta IV Heavy stands 232 feet tall, or about 23 stories, and weighs about 1.6 million pounds fully fueled. Yeah. The 3 Delta IV RS-68A main engines produce more than 2 million pounds of thrust. Approximately 6 minutes later, at stage separation, it weighs just 7% of what it did at liftoff.
They probably told you already, but this is was supposed to be a shuttle
is a joint
launch pad.
Organization engaged in the research and development, acquisition, launch, and operation of innovative overhead reconnaissance systems necessary to meet the needs of the intelligence community and the Department of Defense. The NRO is recognized for its innovative intelligence collection systems that are used to develop highly accurate military targeting data, support international peacekeeping and humanitarian relief operations, and to assess the impact of natural disasters. The art for today's mission depicts an eagle as the symbol of both freedom and the nation, providing a fitting mascot to represent NRO's support to our nation's warfighter. The initials JLC on the foreground dog tag are in honor of Colonel Joshua L. Chamberlain, a Union commander who was awarded the Medal of Honor for his heroism at the Battle of Gettysburg on July 2nd, 1863, when he held the Union Army's southern flank at Little Round Top against a repeated assault from Confederate forces. Yeah. Colonel Chamberlain's heroism, leadership, and commitment to service before self exemplifies the ethos of the American warfighter who the NRO is committed to serving each and every day. The art also includes the NRO mission number NROL-71, along with the Delta IV Heavy in Vandenberg Air Force Base to indicate both the launch vehicle and location. The motto, "Serving Those Who Serve," rounds out the logo and represents the NRO's commitment to delivering the mission on time to the warfighter and intelligence community.
I really like the NROL.
We remain in the 15-minute hold. Again, this is a planned hold to give the launch team time to resolve any final outstanding issues. If you're a regular viewer of ULA's webcast, which we hope you are, or if you've been following the mission, you know we've had some technical issues. Last week, I had the opportunity to discuss those with Jim Zimmerly, ULA's chief engineer. So thanks, Jim, for taking some time out of your really busy schedule to talk with me today. I just wanted you to maybe talk to us a little bit about the scrub in December that was due to a hydrogen leak. How did we actually identify where that leak was? Like, what tests did we do to find that out?
Yeah, so as part of our standard process anytime we launch the vehicle, we have a HAZ gas system that monitors all the conditions in the vehicle to monitor for any excess hydrogen, any excess oxygen, or any other propellants. During our launch attempt, we saw elevated readings. We did some troubleshooting on the day of launch and could not identify where the hydrogen leak was coming from. So we had to scrub that day and go initiate an investigation to figure out where the hydrogen leak was coming from.
What kind of steps have we taken to identify where that is and remedy the problem?
Yeah, unfortunately, when you work with hydrogen, the leak only showed up when we're at liquid hydrogen temperatures, only at minus 423. And there's no evidence once you're done, once you've detanked and got back into the vehicle, to tell you where the leak comes from. So what we had to do is initiate a tanking test. We create a special configuration with the engine section to have HAZ gas monitors at all the locations that were suspect for the leak, repeated the hydrogen tanking test, and then identified the source of the leak. We identified a valve on the engine that was leaking, so we went in and removed and replaced that valve. And then we repeated the tanking test just to make sure we had found the location of the leak and put ourselves back into a configuration that was acceptable for launch. We successfully completed that test, and now we are ready to get back into launch.
On an earlier attempt, we actually had a pretty visual scrub where we had a launch abort during the T-minus 10 seconds and counting. Could you kind of explain to me and the viewers what happened there?
For the last 10 seconds of our launch attempts, what we have the terminal count sequencer rack takes control of the vehicle, makes sure everything is ready to launch, starts the engines, and allows the vehicle to take off. The data that we saw, that we can see, shows that the valves did properly switch from the ground to the flight configuration. Unfortunately, the electrical signal back from the vehicle that confirms that position switch occurred properly, we didn't get that feedback from the vehicle that it switched properly. So the system automatically aborted before we started the engines because we hadn't got verification that we had the proper configuration of the vehicle.
Right, so
10
essentially,
minutes.
you know, everything did work as intended, even though there was some smoke and flame.
Yeah, the system is definitely watching to make sure we're in the right configuration. It monitors it and will shut the vehicle down to make sure we don't launch in an improper configuration. And that's exactly what it did.
So obviously a lot of time and effort and energy has gone into fixing this. So really looking forward to launch, and thank you again for taking some time to talk with me today.
Right, thanks.
Brief of the three issues
So
discussed.
this launch site was previously used for the space shuttle.
Today's mission is ULA's
supposed
first
to be used.
in the new year. 2018 also began with a mission for the NRO and included the first Mars mission from the West Coast and the bittersweet last flight of the venerable Delta II. Let's take a look back.
Liftoff of the United Launch Alliance Delta IV rocket preparing the NROL-71 mission.
Ooh, I remember that one. That was also scrubbed 3 times.
Liftoff of the Atlas V rocket.
And that's fine.
Liftoff of the Atlas V. Noah's goes us.
Liftoff of the United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket with Space 11.
Insight, the first interplanetary mission from the West Coast. Rocker Solar Probe.
The mighty Delta IV heavy rocket with NASA's Parker Solar Probe.
Liftoff of the final Delta II.
I'm glad I saw that.
Liftoff of the
Final Delta II.
mission carried by United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket.
The team is fully prepared.
So
to,
the
monitor,
engines on the
those conditions.
so
that concludes my
this rocket is
outbrief
actually sort of
on that one,
related
LC.
to the.
LC concurs. LD.
LD concurs, and we'll take the short version on next two, please.
Roger.
MD.
MD concurs.
All right. Second item was the swing arm ready indication on the PLC and CGLS team went back and determined that they had a command timing issue with the PLC.
We remain in the planned 15-minute built-in hold. In a few moments, launch conductor Dylan Rice will poll the team for the final go.
So there
to
are a
pick up the
few
countdown.
issues.
31 engineers and managers will be polled for system status and readiness to proceed with the launch. This is the final status check before launch for all Delta vehicle systems, ground systems, the spacecraft, and the U.S. Air Force Western.
I'm moving my
The
face
readiness
all
poll
around the
includes
screen.
hydraulics, pad water deluge system, electrical systems, pneumatics, propulsion systems, flight control, and propellants.
We were seeing approximately 22%. That is the op limit for that item. We also have a red line limit at 23%. So oftentimes when we have wind indications, high winds, we see high indications on these alarm parameters. We continue to monitor in the starboard location.
Ooh,
via the
look at the
RLM,
rocket swinging.
recommendation is to
Is that
disable,
due? That is due to the wind.
6 line items associated with
Look
the
at that.
port
That
and
is some.
core location.
Wow. I've
and
never
I can
seen
provide
that.
those to LC after we
Well,
get concurrence.
probably has happened before, but
Team concurred or recommended to proceed into
look at it
launch with,
swinging.
those 6 alarms disabled
Well,
and just monitor on the starboard location. That concludes that outbrief as well, LC.
LC concurs. LD.
that explains why there are some wind
MD
issues.
concurs.
And LC line items are 0988, 0989, 0990, 1000, 1001, and 1002. Those are the 6 line items to disable an RLM.
Roger. And RLM LC.
Go ahead.
You're prepared to implement the anomaly team's recommendation at this time?
Affirmative.
Proceed.
And LC, we also want to make sure we disable line item 5 and
I
7
think they're gonna
for
hold
the
for a
PDOT
little bit
measurement
longer
as we're manually monitoring that.
to work through the issue.
Roger.
Hey, we have a sooty Delta 4 Heavy. They didn't clean it.
Well, minus 5 minutes.
I think something is red, and they're
LC,
gonna
this is
hold.
RLM.
Go RLM.
All the limits discussed in the anomaly discussion have been disabled.
Roger. LD. LC net 1.
LD on 1.
Yes, sir. Given the late breaking anomaly discussions, I need additional time to
Yeah,
complete the final steps of the countdown procedure.
that's
before
what
we
I.
get to terminal count. Recommend we extend the built-in hold.
Concur.
And this also explains where the hold,
And so for the team,
where the holds are for.
proceeding with the window open, launching.
And they're actually to go through some issues before resuming with the count. So they have one before tanking, then they have one after tanking, which is right now, and it's supposed to be 15 minutes, so they can, if they're behind schedule, they can catch up in those 4 minutes.
OSM, LC.
And if they are in
Verify the hold
front
fire
of
switch in the proceed
the
position.
schedule, they can just go on, but they will hold
Ready
for
to
15
proceed.
minutes.
Red line
Hey,
monitor, LC.
Go ahead.
Verify red line monitor and event table are in the correct configuration for terminal count.
We're active to give me 1 minute.
1 minute.
Roger.
Okay.
RC, LC 1.
Sir, CN1.
Verify solar radiation limits acceptable for launch.
That's verified.
Flight control, LC.
Flight control.
Perform launch on time verification.
Roger. LC, this is RLM.
Go.
Red line monitor and the event table are in the correct configuration for terminal count.
Roger.
We're go for terminal count.
control, launch on time is verified.
Roger.
Think. or not. But the rocket has the pad was used for the shuttle launch, but also the engines were a cheaper version of the RS.
LC, LD on one.
Go LD.
When is the end of today's
Please
window?
coordinate UT0 of 19.
It's 4 hours.
10
So
Roger.
maybe they changed the window, but I thought it was 4 hours.
This is the RCN1.
Please coordinate a new T0 of 1910 Zulu with a range.
Roger, new T019:10.
So it's now 5 minutes
ALC,
delayed.
please set the countdown clock for a new T0 of 1910 Zulu.
Roger.
So ULA uses they divide their whole window up into segments of 5 minutes. So every 5 minutes they have a launch opportunity, and maybe some of these are not inside of the launch window, because sometimes in a launch window there's a tiny gap because you can't launch at that time because of some orbital debris or some orbital traffic. Basically, it's like flying into the highway sometimes.
Go. Countdown has been set for new T0 of 1910 Zulu.
1910, so that is in, say, so they have 6 minutes. They should be.
The team is now working to an 11:10 a.m. Pacific launch time after resolving some issues and extending the hold.
Terminal count. First stage systems. Propulsion.
Oh,
Go.
they're pulling.
Hydraulics.
Go.
Locks.
Go.
LH2.
Go.
Second stage systems. Locks.
Go.
LH2.
Go.
Electrical systems. Airborne.
Go.
Ground.
Go.
Facility.
Go.
RFFTS.
Go.
Flight control.
Go.
COM.
Go.
GC cubed.
Go.
Operation support.
Go.
Pneumatics.
Go.
Umbilicals.
Go.
HAZGAS.
Go.
ECS.
Go.
Redline monitor.
Go.
Quality.
Okay, we'll go.
Go.
Ops safety manager.
Go.
ULA safety officer.
Go.
Vehicle system engineer.
Let's see about range.
Anomaly chief.
AC is go.
Range coordinator.
Clear to proceed.
Launch director.
Launch vehicles ready to launch.
Mission director.
You have permission to launch.
Proceeding with account. ALC. Verify T0 set for 1910 Zulu.
Verified.
MEQ. Establish swing arm lock pins pull.
Active.
Polling is complete and the launch team has given the go for launch. The countdown will resume approximately 2 minutes from now. At T-minus 4 minutes and counting, we will enter the terminal count and begin securing the second stage liquid oxygen tank. At T-minus 3 minutes and 32 seconds, CBC liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen tank securing is started, including closing the propellant fill and drain valves. Also at T-minus 3 minutes and 32 seconds, vehicle transfer from ground facility power to its own internal battery power will be complete. At T-minus 3 minutes, the vehicle ordnance system will be armed, and CBC liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen propellant tanks are verified to be at flight pressure and flight level. At 2 minutes prior to liftoff, the team will verify that the hydraulic system is pressurized and confirm CBC, DCSS, and FTS battery voltages. At T-minus 1 minute and 20 seconds, the team will begin securing the second stage liquid hydrogen tank. At T-minus 60 seconds, Western range readiness is verified. At T-minus 50 seconds, the DCSS liquid hydrogen tank is secured at flight level. At T-minus 15 seconds, the ROFIs are ignited at the base of the vehicle to burn off excess hydrogen. At T-minus...
And counting. 3 minutes.
We
55
continue to
seconds.
count.
Ground pyros enabled.
Second stage lock secure at flight level.
The countdown clock has resumed and we are go for launch at 11:10 a.m. Pacific.
So the right now what they're doing is, until this point, the tanks on both stages, so liquid fueled, the port, starboard booster, core stage, and the second stage, are
3 minutes, 25 seconds.
when they're tanking, they put the cryogenic fuels in there, and they're really cold. They're minus 270 degrees below zero. That's in Celsius. And what they're doing is, until this point, they were topping up the fuels because there is boil off because ambient heat gets into the fuel, and then some fuel boils off, turns into a gas, and then is vented. And some of this is topped off, and right now they are closing the vent valves and closing the fill and drain valves.
FTS internal.
Top of the fuel tanks. Then by closing the vent valves, also the pressure is raised inside the
See locks at flight pressure and flight level.
fuel tanks, and right now they are at flight level. And so, and if there's not enough pressure, the helium inside of the stages inside of the these carbon tanks are fill up the space with enough pressure, and as the fuel gets drained, the helium will replace all the fuel, so it will be pressurized.
Vehicle internal.
Hydraulic pressure 4,000.
1 minute 55 seconds.
So you will see the rocket.
CDC LH2 at flight pressure and flight level.
Flight level, flight pressure. Okay, that's good. So you will see the flame up effect. You will
1 minute 37.
You'll see the sparkers ignite, and those are not used for ignition of the
90
engines.
seconds. The launch vehicle, payload, ground systems in Western Range are go for launch.
The rofies are used to ignite the excess hydrogen coming out of the engines also, but it doesn't really work. So one of the boosters is ignited 2 seconds earlier, so the excess hydrogen from the other two boosters are basically burns up earlier or gets sucked down into the flame change. And
T-minus 1 minute.
This happens because the
rock range is green.
When starting the engines, you have to flow a lot of hydrogen through them first before you fire them up. I will explain about that after.
Secure at flight level.
Shut up now. Let's listen in. 30 seconds to launch.
30 seconds.
Status check.
Go Delta.
Go NROL-71.
Rofi ignition.
T-minus 10.
There we go.
9, 8. We should have ignition. 6, 5.
There we go.
4,
Flame up.
3, 2, 1. And
liftoff, yes.
Liftoff of the United Launch Alliance Delta IV Heavy rocket with NROL-71 for the National Reconnaissance Office.
Vehicles beginning
A
pitch over
lot of
maneuver.
stuff gets blown out of the flame range.
You are hearing the voice of Patrick Moore providing launch vehicle
When
ascent
next
data.
rock talk.
Now 20 seconds
I
into
have
flight,
no idea.
good chamber pressure across all
Hoping
three
on
cars,
somewhere around 5 February. 5th February. So as you will see the core stage throttle down. You will see the light getting a little bit dimmer than the other
core
two.
boosters beginning to throttle down to the partial thrust mode as expected.
As you can hear, and you can see it
Core
actually,
boosters reach partial thrust.
the booster's a little bit
Now
less
46
bright.
seconds into flight. Chamber pressures continue to look good across all three R68 engines. Core booster in partial thrust mode. Port and starboard boosters in the full thrust mode. Now coming up on 1 minute into flight.
And you will see it pulling in a little bit of, or actually creating a little bit of trail when it goes
Passing
through.
1 minute 10 seconds. All three RS-68A engines continue to look good. Vehicle is now passing max Q, maximum dynamic pressure. And vehicle is now past Mach 1. Delta 4 is now supersonic.
Woo. And
Now
now
1
you
minute, 30
see
seconds
the
into flight.
trail, which is only
Chamber
water
pressures on all
vapor
three RS-68A engines continue to look good. Core
and a
booster
bit
in
of
partial
burnt
thrust mode, port and starboard boosters in
carbon,
full
but
thrust mode.
more on that
1
later.
minute 40 seconds in. Launch vehicle is now 12 miles in altitude. Traveling at almost 1,600 miles per hour.
Beautiful views.
Chamber
Beautiful.
pressures on all 3 engines continue to look good. Coming up on 2 minutes into flight. Second stage attitude control system press valve has been opened. System now pressurizing to flight levels. Response looks good.
That's going fast.
Now 2 minutes, 10 seconds in. Chamber pressures on all 3 engines continue to look good.
I really like to see when the rocket pitches over.
Vehicle's now gone to closed loop guidance. Vehicle body rates look good.
Ooh, that's beautiful. So right now it
2
wasn't
minutes, 30 seconds in.
on open loop,
Just
which
over 3 minutes now remaining in the boost phase of flight.
which means that the target heading and the target
Engine operating parameters continue
where
to
it
look
was
good.
pointing
Now passing
was
2 minutes 42 seconds in. The Delta IV rocket now weighs just 1/2 of what it did at launch, burning propellant at a rate of almost 5,000 pounds per second.
was predetermined, and if it
2
when it
minutes,
switches
5
to
seconds
closed
in,
loop,
vehicle body rates continue to look good.
it calculates its
Now at 3 minutes, vehicle is now passing Mach 5.
its target apoapsis. Actually, it compares
20
its
seconds
target
remaining,
apoapsis
and-
to where it is,
30.
then readjusts the appointment of the rocket, and then
Vehicle body rates continue to look good. Chamber pressures on the RS-68A engines continue to look good. Now coming up on 3 minutes, 20 seconds into flight.
make sure it hits the
Just
right
over 30 seconds
orbit.
now remaining until strap-on booster engine cutoff.
And
3 minutes, 30 seconds in, just over 2 minutes remaining in the boost phase of flight.
so the
Vehicle is now passing Mach 10.
you see main
Chamber
engine
pressures on
start
the
1
RS-68A
in
engines continue
the
to look good.
list on the other side of the screen.
And port and starboard booster engines now throttling down to partial thrust in preparation for cutoff as expected.
And that is the second stage. They call the second stage the Delta cryogenic second
we have
stage,
cutoff
but
on
they
the
call the
strap-on
main
engines.
engine.
Standing by
We've
for
cut off
separation.
separation. Beautiful views.
And we have good indication
Beautiful.
of separation of the port and starboard
Bye
thrust
bye.
boosters. Core booster is now
They drop in the
throttled back up to
ocean.
the full
No
thrust
reuse.
mode. Engine response looks good. 4 minutes, 10 seconds into flight.
And there you have it. Rocket pitches up a bit.
Chamber pressure on the core booster in the full thrust mode looks good.
I'm surprised we get onboard views of this.
Upper stage lock system
But
has
it's
begun
beautiful.
boost phase chill down sequence to
I
boost
love it,
thermal
though.
conditioning of the upper stage engine. Now 1 minute remaining in the boost phase of flight.
And we have. So we
And
have
upper stage fuel
a
system
few
has
more
begun
minutes
boost phase chill down.
before they cut it off.
Core booster continues to look good in the full thrust mode.
Oh, there we get the.
Coming up
I
on
hate
5
when
minutes into
animations
flight.
don't
Little over 30 seconds
really
now remaining
match
until
with
Pico.
real life. As you can see, they missed the
Vehicle body
skirt
rates continue to look
on the
good.
bottom.
Chamber pressure continue to look good on the core booster. Now 5 minutes 20 seconds. Standing by for core booster throttle down shortly. Core booster is now throttling down as expected. Standing by for Pico. And we have Pico booster engine cutoff, standing by for stage separation. And we have good indication of stage separation. Nozzle extension is now deploying. We have pre-start on the RL-10.
Ooh, beautiful.
Ignition on the RL-10.
I was watching, waiting for those. So as you can see, the nozzle extended over the engine. Ooh.
We have ignition and full thrust on the RL-10. Chamber pressure looks good. Body rates look good. Standing by for payload.
The last time we
jettison.
saw
And
that
we have
view
good
was
indication
on
of payload
the
bearing jettison.
Orion test launch.
Chamber pressure continue to look good on the RL-10 engine.
Look at those fairings falling away. That's beautiful.
First burn of today's mission will last approximately 12 minutes, 6 seconds.
So they're gonna have a second burn.
This is Delta Mission Control at T plus 6 minutes and 30 seconds and counting. Patrick
was
Moore
cool.
has just confirmed the successful completion of the early phase of today's flight. All systems continue to operate nominally, and I would also like to thank Patrick Moore for his support of today's show.
Love that.
If you'd like to know
Hang
more
around
about
though, because I'm
ULA
going to explain
or the
something
Delta
about
IV Heavy
the
rocket,
engines.
visit ulalaunch.com or join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter. If you'd like to know more about the NRO, visit www.nro.gov or follow them on Facebook and Twitter. To finish the show, let's take another look at today's liftoff, which occurred at 11:10 a.m. Pacific. I'm Tyler Strickland, and on behalf of the entire launch team, thank you for joining us and have a great day. And liftoff of the United Launch Alliance Delta IV Heavy.
So as you can
rocket
see,
with NROL-71 for the National Reconnaissance Office.
the flame is yellow, unlike the shuttle, which had a clear flame with a blue cone. But that's another effect. That's basically a shock diamond. Cool. Yeah, let me pull up the. Let me just do this. Let me pull up this. Ta-da! Delta IV Heavy. Yeah, I'm still live. So the RS-68A main engines are they're actually derived from the shuttle main engines. They were supposed to be a cheaper version of the main engines, and they were built for the Delta IV because they could have used shuttle engines, but shuttle engines were meant to be reusable, and throwing away reusable engine SLS, yeah, that's not a good idea. So they found a way to make it cheaper, and what they did was basically remove the nozzle on. If you have ever seen, I'm just gonna pull up images. This is not the official live stream anymore, so putting up images. So the RS-25 52 note. I need the 25 engine, and the RS-68A RS-68A engine. If you look at those images, let me pull up 2 images. So can I get some bigger images? Yeah, this is a good one. And come on. No, that is not a. Can I just pull up this image? Okay. So what they did was basically a lot of this was simplified, and also the nozzle, which is regeneratively cooled on the shuttle, which has a lot of tiny pipes forming the nozzle, and through those pipes there runs liquid hydrogen, which cools the engine. And so they have one pipe going, or they have one pipe going down and then one pipe going up. So they have up down, up down, up down, up down, and this cools the engine and makes sure the metal doesn't melt, because the rocket exhaust is 3000 degrees Celsius, which is hot. It burns through steel immediately. And what they do is it also helps pressurizing the fuel, because after it goes through the turbo pump, it already has a high pressure. It goes through the engine, and then by heating up, it gets a little bit more pressure. But this is very expensive. So what they did on the RS-68A, or RS-68, and then the 68A is an improvement. They only made the combustion chamber from this type of pipes, and the nozzle is basically just plated with carbon. It's just a metal shell. I don't know, might be even aluminum, and then it's coated with graphite on the inside, and this is basically carbon. So and this is what they call ablative cooling. The carbon burns away, but that's what causes the yellowish tint inside of the flames. It is the carbon burning, or actually the carbon glowing, like you would on a charcoal. When you blow on a charcoal, you put extra oxygen, it burns this. It is not oxygen rich, but you get the idea. It's heating up the carbon with it, and that it emits the orange flame. And yeah, that's the story of the RS-68A engine. So, and it was meant to be a cheaper version of the RS-68A, and it says here it has 80% fewer parts and it is reduced cost, and it was supposed to be used on the, what was it, on the Ares 5, so that was the predecessor of the SLS, and it has, let me see, we can compare thrust. The RS-68A has 3,000 kilonewtons of thrust, 3,000. It has even has more thrust than the shuttle main engine. So I don't get why they use shuttle main engines on the SLS instead of these, because these are cheaper. But yeah, well, NASA, bureaucracy, we'd never know. Anyway, I want to thank you for watching, and let me just put up to this. Yeah, that's my honest story. I don't get, these engines have more thrust, they are cheaper, have less parts, are meant to be expendable, and everything which isn't for the space shuttle main engine. And if they, well, it is what they say, they wanted to use up the remaining stock, but then again, they produced new shuttle engines, so new RS-25s for the SLS, which they could, why not use these? These are made to be expendable and not reusable, like the beautiful engines the shuttle main engines are. Well, yeah. Frustration. That's I honestly think they should have used these, because they were planning on using it on the Ares 5, and then they cancelled the Constellation program, but basically kept the Ares 5, but then called it SLS, and then instead of the RS-68A main engines, they use the shuttle main engines, which is, I think, probably 3 or 4 times the price. Oh yeah, well, here it says it's 20 million per engine. Austin flew his Spark for the first time. Oh, hey, I should check that. That's cool. Oh, frustrating. Okay, well, let's check this. How expensive is a shuttle main engine? I thought it was crazy expensive. Chemistry development, space shuttle program. 40 million. It's half the price. That is a lot. So for the same price, you could put 8 of these onto your rocket. Nah. Okay. Frustrations. Yeah. Well, anyway. Yeah. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next stream. Don't know what it is. Check my Twitter for my Twitter's in the description. So if you stumble upon this on YouTube, go to my Twitter and follow me for next stream. I also have Patreon, so if you want to support me on Patreon, go there and support me. Starts from $1 only. So yeah, well, and yeah. I have a lot of models to come yet. I'm working on the drone ship, which is really cool. Also on my Twitter. Yeah, I do a lot of stuff on Twitter, so if you don't follow me on Twitter yet, go and follow me. Yeah, so thank you for watching, and see you in the next stream. And this is me, Adastra, out.